Welcome to the Dangerous Man Podcast, where we talk about how to become a better man, take responsibility for our mission, create value for others, and the many failures and lessons we've learned along the way. Stay dangerous. What is up? Welcome back to the Dangerous Man Podcast. This is your host, John Kostohris. I'm joined by special guest, Daniel Gjengdahl.
Thanks for having me back.
Dude, it's always a pleasure. Adam is making some money tonight. He's hustling, doing some valet, parking some cars, making some bank from a very nice hotel event. You'll have to ask him about it sometime. So we are the two of us here gonna rock and roll. But today, Danny and I were kind of chatting, and this is what always happens. We'll get together and just start talking, and a million ideas and inspirations hit us. It's wonderful. And something that was kind of striking our heart was just this goes back to probably several months ago now, where we were realizing, you need a lot more money to live these days than you used to. And I don't think a lot of people really realize that. You'll be chatting with people and, $60K is a lot of money. It's enough to raise a family. And if you're making $100K a year, you're like rolling in the dough. Like you're rolling in your money. Like you're just wealthy. I think that's what most people think. And we've thought that way for like 10 years. But money's not worth what it was 10 years ago. And yet our benchmarks of what is a lot of money hasn't changed at all since then. So, it's just kind of what I got our juices talking about. But if you want to take it from here, Dan, and kind of break that egg open for us.
That was my thing, man. Growing up, it was like, I just need to make $60K and I can raise 10 kids. Oh, man.
That's because you have like that many siblings,
yeah,
right?
That's because I have 10 siblings who I grew up with.
Yeah.
But no, I think in a lot of ways we haven't seen a whole lot of like incomes going up at the rate that money's being printed. And so it's just slightly concerning at the fact that a lot of you have your savings being stolen from you. And, I think a lot of it goes with the thought process of we'll save until we retire and then we'll live life. And I just think savings are losing a lot of the purchasing value that it have. Not that you don't ever set money aside and go into credit card debt and stuff like that, but like,
sure,
your money when you're 80 or 70 or 60 is not going to be worth anything when you get there. Yeah. And so it's like, and this is not to be, again, a proponent of you should go spend it all on stupid stuff, but to recognize that there's a really serious problem and that it needs to be addressed and not just kind of like slid under the rug as like, oh, I'll be rich if I save this many dollars per month and invest it into what's the current one that people like, the dollar cost average, into the
some kind of stock or something.
Yeah, some kind of stock. The stock market, it goes up on average by 10%. So if we just dollar cost average every week for 80 years, we'll be rich. So I mean, maybe, but given the current rate of deterioration with our stuff, I just don't.
Man, I mean, inflation has been hovering around 7% for a good amount of years now. During COVID, it was around 9%. Now, look it up, it's about 6.75 right now. So it's like
they tried to redefine inflation too.
Oh, did they?
Yeah, they essentially tried to cut out a few of the factors that you would test to essentially see it, but it's more like 17%. So
Jeepers.
in the past 2 years, at least, I think it was 1 in every $4 was printed in the last year.
Yeah.
So, yeah, which puts
That's
you more
crazy.
at 25 in that regard. So, but man, yeah, it reminded me of there's a story in the Hard Times Create Strong Men book by Stefan Arnio, and
Great book.
this book was written in 2018, 19, I want to say. So pretty recent. And he was talking about how a burger flipper back in I need to remember the date for good accuracy. 19.
We're talking 1900s here, right?
Yeah. So like 1950.
Yeah.
And essentially, I could be wrong, but we'll say 1950 for just an idea.
Yeah.
But essentially,
for the sake of story,
if you convert with the gold standard, essentially, it was worth about $124,000 in today's income that a burger flipper made back then. Whoa. And so, as you could see, our purchasing power has significantly decreased, and income wise is definitely it feels weird to say $124,000 is minimum wage.
Yeah.
And as a burger flipper too, I think their jobs have gotten a little harder because now they got all these different big menus that McDonald's people got to perform, and
right, not just like one item on the menu.
Yeah, although I've heard some places just microwave stuff, so maybe it's not as hard as we think it is. But regardless, it was sort of like it's
30-second turntables, and then you flip it over and hit start again.
It's like, man, what a golden age that must have been to, I mean, we all got our own like cool tech now that they didn't have back then. So I mean, you each get your ups and downs. I'm sure 100 years from now it'll be quite incredible, just the sort of things, assuming we don't all blow ourselves up.
Yeah.
So
exactly,
I feel like we're headed towards that. But
that's crazy to me that 100 or minimum wage was like 100, and you said 124K.
Yeah, 124K,
man.
And I think it's kind of crazy too, because
they were living, dude.
Like I was like, it's amazing how much everything has sort of shifted and whatnot. And so I always thought it was funny because growing up, I was never a proponent of minimum wage. And I'm still not a proponent of minimum wage. I don't think the government should enforce a minimum wage. The whole point of a minimum wage was so the employers could not screw over the employees. Sounds noble, right?
Right. Like, here's 30 cents an hour.
Yeah.
And then
the problem
they agree to it.
Is because we have free negotiation in our market. As in, if you offer me $5 an hour, I laugh and I go work for Steve, who pays me $10 an hour. I mean, I won't work for 10 anymore, but just as regardless, whoever pays the most gets the most employees, essentially. And so it creates incentive to pay more, not pay less, actually. So, I mean, you would have to have a serious monopoly on everything in order to have everyone just pay less, essentially, which would cripple, and not produce growth. And so I think actually Henry Ford was the biggest proponent of, I pay my employees well so they perform at their best. And I would say he's considered the father of the middle class ultimately being born. And what we're seeing now is the middle class completely disappearing, and the rich getting richer and the poor getting poorer. And so it's definitely a problem because it's not an easy solution to, I mean, I think it's easy to just stop printing, and arrest some very corrupt government people. But dear FBI guy listening on the other end, sure he's enjoying a cigar right now.
He's probably saying, I could use a bonus too.
Yeah. Call us, man. You have our number. Just just give us a call. We'll talk. But essentially, it's like, I think the conclusion it was coming to was we way underestimated how much is considered enough. And in our minds, it feels greedy to say, oh, I need to make over 100K now, for example, as like the new 60K standard, essentially. And so I think once you understand how much the numbers are off, you can kind of get out of that mindset. But it's been ingrained. I mean, it's like, it's very, excuse me, it's like very ingrained of like 60K. And it's like weird to ask for more or like to expect more to, in a lot of ways.
It's because so many people are thinking on that level. It's, I mean, how many people have their parents be like, oh, you tell them how much you started making, and they're like, wow, that's great. Or it's like, wow, that's like a lot of money. And it's like, and all of a sudden, oh, because they said that, I start to think, oh, yeah,
I think it's a good wage too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, right, exactly. And, enough people kind of share their opinions and all that pack mentality just kind of stays.
Yeah.
If their response was, wow, that's like, or like, that's a great beginner or salary, or, it's like, wow, like they kind of got you low. Like, you'd probably be like, oh, huh. It's interesting, kind of the pack mentality with the mindset there. As far as like how we think about money.
I think too, it's like the assumption that, like a good-hearted person has is like, oh, like I should just, live simply and I shouldn't like do all this exotic, like living above my means and whatnot. And it's not necessarily bad. It's just to realize you're losing long term is detrimental, and like you put your family at risk. And so it's not actually like, it's not personal. It's not like a personal attack on like your character, for example. It's like when you ask for a raise, for example, from your boss, it's not like, oh man, boss, please give me more money so I can just be greedy. It's like, bro, food's gone double the price, gas double, everything.
Yeah.
It's like my salary did not double. And I think that's a problem, because everything else is doubling. It's kind of,
my salary doesn't even go up 7% a year.
Exactly.
And if inflation's more like, in the teens or up to 20% even, it's like, yeah, it's like we're so far behind on what our wages are.
Yeah.
Like, I think companies are able to just milk people. And we're like, man, you're making 60K? Well, we got to make sure to like, you better be working for it. Like if you make 100K, here's some perspective. If you make 100K a year, you are at some management level, which means you're doing a lot of work and you're dealing with people, and they're probably going to overwork you, and they probably don't have as many good staff at that level as they need. And so you're going to, oh, well, we're paying you 100K, so rise up and, be worth your money. It's like, well, the heads of departments are like 120, 150K. Like, that's not a whole lot more marginally for the amount of work that they do,
that they produce. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's kind of mind-boggling to me.
Yeah. I can also see it too from like the employer's point of view of being like, holy crap, like, like all those areas. And I think too, it's becoming more and more of a responsibility of the employer to see how big of a problem that inflation is currently, and to adapt to it, essentially, which is like you're charging more for your product. All the prices are going up. Explain to your customers why you're charging more. It's like they're not going to take it personally. Like, oh, they're trying to screw me. No, you have employees, families that need to eat. You got people you got to take care of. And so even if your employees don't necessarily understand that they're losing out on their purchasing power, it's like to keep essentially striving for it to, because ultimately the pay raise was meant to be a raise. That means you have more purchasing power. And in reality, it's now not even keeping up with inflation, which means you're now losing purchasing power every single year that you make money and whatnot. And so I think it's kind of a scary reality that a lot of people are going to wake up to very, very quickly, I think. And yeah, I mean, I really think the first solution is this is like the least amount of effort. One is vote for people that are not going to print money. Like we can elect people into office that are not going to be, just go along with it. And it's hard to find those people, I'm going to be honest. But or be those people, it's like be the change, I guess, you want to see and whatnot. But it's the other solution, which is assuming is kind of hopeless to fix it currently, is to essentially better yourself off and to outproduce that, essentially. So we got to make more money then, ultimately. And so I think for all of us, we can do that one right now. That's not like I just hope that we get enough people to elect this politician to fix our problems. It's like, I don't see that happening, not for a while.
To quote John Mayer, waiting on the world to change.
Yeah. I love John.
As opposed to Michael Jackson, make that change. I'm looking at the man in the mirror.
Yeah.
I'm asking him to change his ways.
It's like maybe 20 years from now, I'd have much more confidence in saying that, I could change it because I'd be a formidable force in the world, is sort of my thoughts. But like as a 25-year-old dad with living an apartment life, I just don't see myself doing it at this year. Probably not gonna change it. But the what I can change though is my income capabilities, and so that is exactly what I am working on. And so I think too is like, it's when me and John were talking earlier, it was like, we're not like suggesting you need to quit your job, go be a serial entrepreneur,
Yeah.
We're not recommending that. Although if you do want to do that, we want to talk to you and definitely get a drink. And
absolutely.
But essentially it's like I would highly consider your job opportunity with your current, skill set that you have. So if you are, a marketing guy, let's say, to assess what you can do in your marketing field as far as like promotions and advancements. Maybe that's working for a different company that offers you better, better compensation or whatnot, or further advancement. But if you're in a field that has zero advancement, like, what's a zero advancement? Art, like I just, I'm an art major and I beg you, please, like, adapt a skill set that has some serious advancement opportunities and whatnot. And, I like the story I heard was, the concrete billionaire, he's just not passionate about concrete, but he does it because he's able to produce massive amounts of money doing it. But like, he's not like, oh yes, concrete. Oh, I love concrete so much. It's like, nah, it sucks. It's hard work, but pays good. So it's I think a lot of ways, we kind of grew up thinking we're gonna like work nešto ideal jobs that we never get dirty, and we're always so comfortable. It's like, get uncomfortable real quick, because if you don't do it now, you down the road it's going to be very uncomfortable, I think. And so I think it's not to give up on your dreams necessarily, but to be honest with yourself about where you're at and where you're able to go, and try not to overestimate your opportunities, I suppose, too, as well, because I suppose you would have to assess too for bad markets and not like, ideal wise. But
Yeah. I just want to like allude to how important it is to have financial literacy. Like I really want to, let's set the stage here a little bit, Dan, I think in a time where, we mentioned this inflation thing, we see the problems and the challenges in the world, global pandemics, collapsing governments, and we can see like, let's just print a one, like you said, 1 out of every 4 bills now is printed in 2020. And that's wild. And I think it can be easy to get in a whirlwind of, I follow the news, I read the blogs, and I circulate the what's going bad, the bad news, that sells, and people are interested. It's like, you ever wonder like, oh, this dude had an incredible speech. Everyone was so proud of him. He dreamed of this moment his whole life. This guy got a raise in his job, and his mom called him, and they had a celebration at their house. Like, what if that was the news channel? No one would give a shit.
Yeah.
But they're like, breaking news. This person said what to this guy? Corrupt officials drop pictures of scandalous, and everyone's like, oh, I need to see this right now. They're like
I knew it.
Glued to the television.
I was right voting for who I voted for. Oh, there.
Yeah, they start doing this as comparison gaming. But, so what I'm saying is bad news sells, right? And it's interesting, but it's so easy to just get kind of sucked into like just kind of finding a good stable job will get me through everything. Or on the flip side, it's like I suck in all this bad news and I just kind of become depressed all the time. And what I'd love to do here is just, what can we kind of share with our listeners to just say like, hey, these deep topics here, how can we kind of inspire some hope of what is necessary of men to weather these times, and where do we really ultimately, where are we trying to aim? Where are we trying to go?
I think
what will help us?
It's like a first step would be, taking ownership. That's easy to be like, boo-hoo, all of this stuff sucks, and the past generation screwed us, and
yeah,
you could do that, but it doesn't change your the struggle you're in, essentially. Like assigning blame, for example, that's the easy part. It's you have to overcome it though, and I think that's the noble part. It's like it requires sacrifice, and it's like I think of, it's very noble to take on struggle, freely take it on and bear it.
Yeah.
To not just like my little brother, he hurt his ankle and whatnot. He was like, oh, I can't wrestle, Danny, because I hurt my ankle or whatnot. I'm like, well, practice wrestling with a hurt ankle, bro, because you're going to be a victim real quick, man. But it was funny because it's like he was looking for an excuse to get out of having to do painful manly duties of wrestling his other brother.
Yeah.
And hey, if that thing had a cast on it, I would understand, but no cast, man. Let's go, man. Like, practice some jujitsu on the ground, man. I'm like, whatever it takes. Don't. But I was thinking of my own life on how often I look for a reason to be a victim of like, oh,
yes,
I've been screwed over. And yes, you have. Congratulations. You are a victim. And it didn't get me anywhere and whatnot. And so the ultimate solution that I guess have been coming to is you just kind of have to take ownership. Otherwise, you're always going to have a reason to be, oppressed. And ultimately, though, by taking it on and bearing your burden, I would say we find freedom in that. And so I think for tying back to our current problem that we were talking about with inflation and whatnot and losing purchasing power, is to realize, yeah, it's going to be some hard work you got to put in, assuming you're not going to quit your job and go be serial entrepreneur guy.
Yeah.
It's essentially, you always need to be bettering your resume then. You need to be learning new skills to put on there. Be adaptable. Maybe you need to learn a new skill. Maybe you need to take an online course and learn a better skill. If you want to do, entrepreneur stuff, I would say maybe quit your job and go join like a marketing job and then a sales job. So you can work these jobs to learn these skills that are required and necessary to run a business, essentially. And I would say that actually keeps your family afloat really well by doing, learning actively. And none of those require school. From everything I've seen online,
Right.
you can just take an online course to learn.
If you did something like what Adam's doing, door-to-door sales, or even an equivalent kind of sales job, and you worked the phones, and you worked leads, cold calling for 4 years while everyone else was in college, out of those 4 years, you could get hired by almost any company and immediately provide value. You could immediately boost their top line, and you could go anywhere. And you know what I mean? Like, that skill will feed you forever. Like I was listening to Alex talk about this principle of printing money, and just, the idea that he could basically go to a company and say, look, I will work the front desk for you. I'll work your leads. I'll run some ads and I'll bring you business. And like, what's the least amount of money you're willing to pay me? Or like, what's the biggest discount you can give on your service so that I can bring in you leads and give them a good offer? Great. And then you say it's like, $100. Great. Chiropractor's paying $100. And now I'm going to charge like 200 or 300 or whatever. I'm going to work the leads. And all of a sudden I could just, like, in a month, basically print money. He's like, I've lost all my money like 5 times. He's like, every time I can go to a business, generate leads for them, keep the extra top line, or like the extra overhead that I charged, and like print money. Like, those are skills you can actively go out and just put the hours in and work. And I think he was saying 20 hours is what it takes to get good at something. Becoming like a master, okay, that's a lot more time.
A lot more hours.
But it's like, people don't even start the first hour.
Yeah.
How much stuff do you not even start the first hour? If you actually just put a solid 20 hours of work into any one thing, pick a topic, pick a skill, you'd probably be able to research, practice a little bit, and be pretty decent, have a good working knowledge. So, that's what we're talking about. It's like, that's how I've been approaching it is, does this job teach me skills that I can go make more money and raise my value of who I am? No. If no, I'm not going to take it. Like, I'm only working my job right now so I can quit my job. Take those skills that I learned and got paid to learn there and go make more money somewhere else with those skills. And so that's kind of that's something that you could do that in a lot of different jobs and careers without ever starting your own business or being an entrepreneur. But the idea of, like, I work a job to learn and grow a skill. How much can I milk from these people? Because I promise you, they will milk as much as they can out of you. So you got to flip around and do the same. It's like, oh, I'm putting my 2 weeks in. Oh, look, where are you going? Like, why are you quitting? Like, what are you doing next? And it's like, they like want to know they're like glued to the new Channel 9 news of your life. And they're just ready to gossip and eavesdrop, and they got to hear all the drama on it. I like to tell employers the very minimum I can possibly tell them of why I'm leaving. Like, thank you for this great opportunity. I'm grateful for my time here. I'm excited for the ventures that lie ahead. Oh, like, what are you going to do? But like, yeah, I've got some stuff lined up and I'm pretty excited about it. And yeah, I'm just really grateful for the time here. It's like, I just don't give them an inch, because it's like, you're milking everything out of me and then trying to get me to tell me my reasons so you can sell me out of leaving, or like, judge me. And the reality is, like,
or create a counter offer.
Or a counter offer. And that's really popular. People were like, I don't want you to leave. Or it's like, oh, like, well, if you leave now, you're just gonna try, like, you telling me you're starting a new career, a different topic. They're gonna be like, oh, well, why would you do that? Or you're just gonna not do that well. Or if you keep doing that, they're just gonna try to give you their free advice. Why
Lots
even
of free
waste?
advice out
Don't
there.
let them even waste their breath. And this is what the point I'm trying to get at is, if you're the one in charge and you're the one in control, you're the one taking ownership of, like, I set out to join this company and have this job to learn these X, Y, and Z. Now I learned X, Y, and Z, gained experience. Now I'm leaving it and I have the next part of my plan. And they, I used them to grow, not the other way around. Not like, oh, I'm just a fish in the ocean of employees and I just am in the system. It's like, you can actually be proactive and take ownership and get a lot out of it.
I think too, I was reminded of some of my old coworkers, and they had so sold themselves that career at that company was going to be their life, and there was nothing else out there for them, and they were so sad, and they were kind of shocked when I quit, because they're like, "What? How are you leaving?" And then they wanted to sell me back on why I should stay, and it's risky to quit, and you lose the benefit packages, and and I just think it's kind of funny because it's like I think in so many ways we stop bettering ourselves and developing, and when we do that, we become very dependent upon whoever your employer is per se, and I think it's kind of risky to stay like that, and it's also depressing too, to kill your ambition, especially as a man. It's like you need ambition, and it's a good thing to have, and it's not bad. You're not greedy for being ambitious and whatnot. It's necessary, and I think it's more necessary now than it has ever been in a long time, at least. And so, feed your ambition. Get at it. Your woman will look at you in another light. She'll be proud of you. I just, you want to make your wife happy, be ambitious, and I think it's a good first start and whatnot. And so, don't always buy all the free advice everyone gives you, especially from your coworkers, because many of them have decided that it's the only thing is that job and whatnot. And it's like, it blows my mind. It's like I was thinking of one of the valet guys. He said he was salaried to be the manager. It was only $40K they were paying him, but the amount of hours and the time of day, it was like, why would you work that, man? The dude's on antidepressants. It was like, this is sad. It's like, but he felt like it was his only thing he could do. I was like, my man, like, go back to being a regular valet and put in those hours. You make way more.
Yeah.
It was like, I don't know how they came up with the 40K as like a fair number or whatnot, but it was like just, but I think being stuck, you gotta start thinking outside of the box and whatnot. Shut off the TV, stop drinking beer, and start doing some constructive thinking, and maybe buy a nice scotch. I'm a proponent of scotch. I think it's a
level up a bit.
Yeah.
I want to speak to, kind of wrap up here, some final thoughts. But if you're listening to this, and I know it can be easy just to be like, oh, these are things and values and stuff that Dan and I care about a lot. And I think I just want to give a message of hope that there is so much opportunity, and it can seem huge and overwhelming to talk about, like, oh, you need to take steps and do this and become this and pursue becoming better. And it's like, I believe in that so much. And I know, Dan, you believe in that so much, because when you take steps in your life and ownership, you kind of take control and responsibility. You own the ways you're failing. You admit the ways you're wrong, and you humble yourself there. You can also take ownership and embrace the fruit that comes when you choose to grow and become a better person. I'm going to start spending my energy serving people and providing value and developing skills that can make me money and can provide for my family. And beyond that, how do I think about myself? Nah, I'm good. 60K is fine. I'm comfortable. And I just want to challenge that. What about your family? What about your friends? What about people you meet on the street? Like, what if we went and earned a lot more than these benchmarks of 60, 100K? And if I took that creative energy and that time, instead of putting into TV or instead of putting into, gaming or even just like my job, that's all right. If I work on growing beyond that, the amount of impact we can have on others, the amount of value we can give, like that did not inspire me until I started tasting that.
As well as I thought of another point was I saw that apparently switching jobs, on average, you're able to land a 20 to 30% increase in your pay.
Wow.
Which is pretty rare to get a 20 to 30% increase at your current job. And so I think maybe open up some of the job apps and take a look. You would be amazed. As well as another thought that I had of, I forget the book's name. It was like I'd have to look it up again.
So many good
essentially,
books.
You would be amazed at how many people do not ask like for higher up positions. They just assume, oh, I'm not qualified or I'm not X, Y, and Z. And so you only ask for what you think you deserve. And so I would challenge you to ask for higher, because often no one's asking for those. And so you have a much better chance of landing it when there's not that much competition and whatnot. So now, if you're a McDonald's employee trying to be, CEO of a roofing company or something, it's probably not going to happen. But just ask for more from life, and whatever you ask of it, it will give eventually. So
keep at it, guys, and thanks for tuning in today. If we drop episodes every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, subscribe so you never miss a moment. If you got some value out of this, we only ask that you just share it with somebody, share it with a friend. And you've been listening to the Dangerous Man podcast. Join us next time. Until then, stay dangerous.